225 millimeter, 225 millimeter, and thickness up to 100 millimeter, 100 millimeter. So this section of wood, which has thickness, is anybody trying to say something?
Sir, what was the spelling of bills?
Not bills, it deals. D for Delhi.
DEALS.
DEALS. Deals. There is 225 millimeter in width maximum and 100 millimeter in thickness. That is to the limit, maximum limit. So after dills, it is again can be cut into smaller pieces, which are called batten. Batten, batten. The batten, Batten, batten. The batten has a width of 150 millimeter maximum, 150 millimeter width, and 135 millimeter thickness. That is also maximum. 135 millimeter thickness. So there,
So,
yes,
so for deals, the maximum thickness was 100.
maximum thickness for deals,
Was 100, right?
100 millimeter, right?
It is increasing in battens.
No, 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 no. Thickness has gone down. Yeah, it is increasing, right? You are right. It has become 135 millimeter thick batten,
Okay, sir.
but the width is, the width is reduced.
Yes, sir.
Different type of sections. Width is reduced to 150 millimeter wide. Now these battens can also be cut into smaller pieces, which is available in the market for purchasing. And there are, I have told you the main conversion of the wood. Then after this, there can be quantering, scantling. There are few more where small pieces of wood are, small section of woods are available for purchasing. So this is at least the names you ought to remember, and you should know that the log, which we get from the felled tree, can be converted into different sizes of timber, which is known as, it starts with bulk. Bulk is the squared up log, and then we can go for planks, deals, battens, etc. That's all. You don't have to study any more about it. Now we could get back to the process of seasoning. I told you that seasoning is a process which improves the quality of timber or wood. So it has some advantage. That means when we go for seasoning process, we get some advantage. That means in so what are the basic advantage we get is after seasoning. the timber becomes lighter in weight. After seasoning, the timber becomes lighter in weight. It becomes uh, more resilient. It becomes more resilient. And then there are certain weaknesses in woods if it is not seasoned. Those weaknesses are to a great extent removed by the seasoning process. And what are the weaknesses? The weaknesses or defects, you may say, in normal wood is the tendency of twisting. Wood has a tendency of twisting. It has a tendency of warping, WARP, warping. It has a tendency of splitting, SPLIT, splitting, splits off. That means it breaks off. So these tendencies of twisting, warping, splitting, these are reduced after seasoning process. And finally, when the seasoning process is over, I mean the wood or timber is seasoned, then it increases, the process increases the strength of the timber, the hardness of the timber, and the stiffness of the timber. So strength, hardness, stiffness, these properties are developed when you do seasoning for the timber or wood. So these are the reasons why seasoning is done. And you know that basically what is seasoning? I told you in the class, I remember, again I'm repeating. Basically, seasoning is drying, drying of wood. When a tree is felled, that means when a tree is alive and it is cut down, there are a lot of moisture inside the body of the tree. These moistures are for its movement of fluid through the wood, through the trunk, I mean through the tree. These moistures are not required when you use the timber for engineering purpose and other purposes. Rather, this moisture content, if it is more than a certain level, then it gives these type of problems which I have already discussed. Just hold for a second. So, the seasoning process basically is a process through which the percentage of moisture content in wood or timber is reduced and is kept within a certain limit. It is not extremely dried, but it is reduced to a great extent, and the quality of wood or timber is thus improved. Now, this is basically seasoning or drying process, and while doing this, there are two types of uh, seasoning process. One is known as natural seasoning, and the other is known as artificial seasoning. So, the natural seasoning process and artificial seasoning process. Now, we will discuss these two processes little bit. Important points you may write down. Natural seasoning process is also known as air drying. Air drying. Natural seasoning process may also be called air drying. In this method, the bulks, you know what is bulk? Roughly squared up logs. The bulks are stacked. Those are stacked in an order under a cover. How they are stacked? They are stacked keeping parallel to each other, but having having certain space between two bulks. That means we call it a spacer, SPACER, spacer. That means the bulks are kept one after another with certain space in between. And this space is kept for free circulation of air all around the surfaces of the bulks. Okay. Now, there can be one row of bulks keeping a certain distance from each other and kept in parallel condition one with the other. Then another row of bulbs can be kept on it, on top of it, but having a direction which is 90-degree to the earlier one. That means if the first row of bulbs are kept north and south direction, then the upper one, next upper one, the bulbs will be kept in east-west direction. That is, it will crisscross. And in the same fashion, they will be kept leaving some space between two pieces. Any two pieces. That means between all the bulbs, there will be space. Now, third row can be kept again on top of the second row, again changing the direction and keeping them at a 90-degree with the second row. That means with the same direction of the first row. So this way, changing the direction, there can be rows of timber which can be stacked one top of the other. But you can imagine that there are huge amount of gap in between because all the timber pieces were kept keeping a distance between each other, and they are in this process, it is kept like this because to allow the air to circulate through the different layers of stacking. And what happens, these are kept like that, and because of the atmospheric air flowing through the stack for a long time, it is kept there for a long time, those can take away moisture from the timber, the wood pieces. But this drying process, that means the wood is dried, but this process is very slow. And since it is kept in open air, only there is a roof on top of it, so that if there is a rain, so no water should fall on the stack because it can be done in throughout the year. So this air which is circulated across all the sections of the wood pieces or timber pieces dries away the excess water from the wood particle, that is from the timber, very slowly and surely. Now the question can arise, how long those are to be kept over there? Depending upon the type of wood which are seasoned, this process can be a process which the duration of which is 1 month, it can be 1.5 months, or sometimes it is even more. So it is a long process. At least 1 month is required, if not more. So this process is known as natural seasoning or natural air drying. But the effect which is we get from it is it gets the best result. That means the seasoning of wood is done best when it is naturally seasoned because slowly and steadily it takes away moisture from the wood pieces and allows the timber to reach a percentage of moisture content which is desirable. So that is the natural seasoning process. Now, instead of bulk, the same process can be performed with other sections. Like if you take planks, if you take battens, the other sections, smaller sections, you can have seasoning process with those pieces also, but the arrangement must be like this. That means there should be adequate space between two pieces, and if it is stacked in different rows, then there should be cross. It should be placed cross wise from one row to another row, and so that air can is allowed to circulate and reach all the surfaces of the timbers. So this is called a natural seasoning process, and that gives the best result to dry out the excess moisture content in wood and to improve the quality. Right. Now coming to artificial seasoning. Artificial seasoning is a process where the same drying process is performed, but the difference is it is not allowed to dry up naturally. For artificial seasoning, we use certain methods where the drying process is done artificially. Like, like suppose there are few methods in artificial seasoning. One of the method is say uh, this stacking of uh, wood or timber is done on the floor of a truck. The same stacking is done on the floor of a truck or a trolley. Okay, but stacking fashion is the same. The way I have told you, done in
Sir,
the
floor or roof?
sorry,
Sir, floor of a truck or roof of a truck?
no. Truck doesn't has roof. It is only has a platform.
Yes. That platform, on that platform, the wood is stacked, sir.
Yeah. Sometimes it is stacked in a trolley also, wheeled trolley.
Okay, sir.
Okay. And then the truck which is loaded with this stack is driven inside a sealed room or sealed chamber where all sides are sealed. That means a closed chamber. And once it is inside the chamber and all sides are closed, then facilities of hot air circulation is there. So hot air circulation process is followed. There are also provisions for circulation of steam inside the chamber. You know, steam is the vapor
But
which we
the
get.
steam would make it more moist.
I agree. I'll come to that. But just listen that provision of steam is also there. So that hot steam can enter into the chamber and fill up the chamber, and everything, this circulation of hot air, circulation of steam, and circulation of even normal air, these three processes can take place inside the chamber. And now it is dependent on, the process is dependent on the operators. There are certain calculations on the basis of which they run the hot air circulatory fan for certain period of time. Then it is closed. Then the normal air fan is run, and it is run for a certain time. Then it is closed, and then steam for a brief period. The steam is also allowed to enter into the chamber for a brief period of time. This is because every interval of time, I mean, after certain interval of time, the quality of wood is tested in case of artificial seasoning. What is tested? The percentage. The percentage of air, percentage of water content in the wood or timber is tested. And it is checked what next to be done. Because if you dry while running the hot air circulatory fan, if the wood is dried beyond certain percentage, the percentage becomes lower than the desired percentage of moisture, then the quality will drop. It will become brittle, and the different qualities which I have mentioned in the beginning, those qualities cannot be achieved for wood or timber. So sometimes it is a cyclic order with hot air circulation, with normal air circulation. For some time, steam is also circulated to increase the percentage of moisture little bit. So that is why the provision of steam circulation is kept, so that it gives the heat. Also, steam is very hot, it provides heat. At the same time, it can adjust the moisture content also. So this is a process which must be done under proper supervision, and time to time testing is required. Testing of the samples to check what is the condition of the wood or the moisture content, and of course done under proper supervision. But the point is, why it is done then? It is done basically to save time. Artificial seasoning takes even less than the time required, even less than the half of the time required for natural seasoning. So when a seasoning process starts, if you go for artificial seasoning, then the seasoning process will take much lesser time compared to natural seasoning. Artificial seasoning can be completed within 2 weeks. But natural seasoning takes even more than 1 month. So this is the main reason why artificial seasonings are done, And basically, in from commercial point of view, when the woods are to be sold from the commercial units, sawmills, wood mills, timber mills, they follow mostly artificial seasoning because they want the product ready within smaller amount of time. But artificial seasoning to some extent depends upon, as I have said, depends upon the supervision and testing process. So it is said that the natural seasoning always gives better result compared to artificial seasoning. Understood? Now write down the actually one more thing. Apart from the chamber I have mentioned, there can be furnaces where this wood or timber are seasoned in case of artificial seasoning. And those furnaces are known as kiln, KILN, kiln. So there are certain type of furnaces called kiln where this seasoning process, artificial seasoning process,
Sir, killed spelling?
K I K I L N, KILN, kiln.
Okay, sir.
It's a type of furnace where the temperature can be controlled, where the duration of hot atmosphere inside can be controlled, and so on. So, proper supervision and time to time testing is the key word for artificial seasoning. And it reduces the time of seasoning to a great extent. That is why artificial seasonings are also used, but you can understand that artificial seasoning is a costly process because it involves these furnaces, it involves generation of hot air, steam, etc. Yes, who raised hand?
Sir, I Marmik.
Yeah, Mohammed, tell me.
Sir, I was asking that artificial seasoning, as you have told, so in throughout the process, the log or the bulk or the that all the sort should be kept in the throughout the process. It should be kept in the trunk or trolley, or it has been kept outside or somewhere
No, no, it is everything is done inside. I
in
mean,
the truck only.
in the truck only, truck or trolley,
Okay,
and when it comes out as
proper product.
proper product, final product.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
Hmm. So now write down percentage, the percentage of moisture, desirable percentage of moisture content in timber of wood for which seasoning is done. Now there are a difference between the percentage of moisture content inside wood which are to be used indoor and which are to be used outdoor. For outdoor use, the percentage of moisture to be retained, I mean, after drying, the percentage of moisture to be retained is bit higher for outside, I mean, outdoor work. because the usage will be outside. Suppose a structure, a bridge, something like is to be made an outdoor work, a house, a wooden big structure. So that will be exposed to atmosphere even after the construction. So in those cases, the percentage of moisture which is desirable to be present in the seasoned wood is from 16 to 22%. 16 to 22%. So after seasoning process, it is desirable that the woods are seasoned for use in outdoor condition should have moisture content within this range 16 to 22%, because this variation is required for different types of woods. There are sal, mahogany, teak, there are different types of woods. So this variation is kept for that. So it is 16 to 22% moisture which are desirable for outdoor use. Now for indoor use, the air circulation indoor will be less, natural air circulation, and also there could be heated atmosphere where wood can be used indoor. So the percentage of moisture content is even lowered for indoor usage purpose, and the percentage of moisture content for indoor usage purpose is 8 to 12%. 8 to 12%. Okay, so these are the desired moisture content which should be there after seasoning. Before seasoning, there are a huge amount of water inside which are dried, and finally this amount is desired to be present inside the tube. Otherwise, if it becomes more dry, then some property of timber or wood will again go down. The properties will be lowered. So this is, and in addition to this, there are certain, one point I just left out is that there is a process also called water seasoning. Water seasoning is something where the logs, after the trees are cut, when we get the logs, those are kept in water, like water body, for some time to check how much moisture it can absorb. So this is part of seasoning. The water seasoning is not a complete process, it is part of. So after some period of time, those logs are taken out of that water, and then the water percentage is tested from the timber or wood. And then they are
So this is a part of which seasoning? A natural or artificial?
artificial. And then they are sent for actual type of drying process. And these are not done for all types of trees. There are certain type of wood or trees which has a tendency to absorb water even after seasoning.
But how does that help?
It helps that once it absorbs the maximum amount of moisture, then if it is dried to the required percentage, then they will, after that they will behave properly. I mean, there will this tendency of absorbing water more after seasoning will disappear. So as much as water the wood can absorb, let it absorb, and then go for seasoning. That is not for all kind of trees. For few kind of timber or wood, this practice is followed. Who has a tendency, those logs have those timber has a tendency to absorb water more than others. So it is allowed to absorb as much as water, and then the treatment starts. So it is a part of seasoning, and then it is subjected to actual seasoning process, artificial seasoning process. Right. So this is the total part of seasoning process in brief, of course, and you do not require more than this at this stage. So what you have to do is prepare a question, answer to your questions. The questions on this part is just like you can understand what is the seasoning process, why seasoning is done, then what are the different methods of seasoning, and then a brief description of natural seasoning and artificial seasoning. So you can prepare the answers, and I don't think it is difficult for you to understand. So you can carry on like that. Now we'll be back again at the afternoon session where we will have, I'll try to show you uh, some figure of stacked wood during seasoning process. Let's see. You'll have more idea of how the woods are stacked inside. I mean, outdoor and indoor for natural and artificial seasoning. Okay, and then we will proceed for some other topic in the carpentry itself. Uh, Yours is AIML. Today is 23rd. You just respond to the names. I'm calling out the names. Renita Sen,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
or okay, or Ghorib,
Present, sir.
Onindo Bose,
Present, sir.
Aishi Kundu,
Present, sir.
Atul Raj,
Present, sir.
Marmik,
Present, sir.
Raj Singh, no, Shihab, Shehawal Farasat, not there. Okay, Raj Singh, what?
Sir, his mic is not working.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, his mic is not
Mic
working.
is not working.
He has
Written
written
in
in
the
the
chat
chat
box.
box. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Raj Singh is present, but his mic is not working. Okay. Shubronil,
Yes, sir, present.
Niladri,
Present, sir.
Aditya Banerjee,
Present, sir.
okay. Indrila,
Yes, sir.
Avirup,
Present, sir.
Shaurik,
Yes, sir.
Prince,
Present, sir.
Shomi,
Present, sir.
Abhi Chakravarti,
Present, sir.
Ankita
Present, sir.
Chonda.
Present, sir.
Okay. Then Shagnik. Just hold on for a second. Then Prince is present. Shomi,
Yes, sir. Present.
Abir, Abir Chakravarti. No. Ankita Chongda.
Present, sir.
Acha, I've called no already. Abir is absent. Then
Sir,
Ankita is
Abir
present.
is present.
Abid
He
is
is having
present
having
first.
some network issues, sir.
He has not written anything, or how do I know?
No, no, sir. He was just now there. Like, sir, he was there just now. So,
That means he left.
No, no,
yes, sir.
he's in the classroom.
Sir,
But I
he's
don't know
there.
what is happening.
I think maybe some
Okay, I'm
emergency or
waiting up to the
something.
end of the call. Let's
Yes,
see.
sir. He was there.
Let's see. Shagnik, Mukherjee. Shagnik, are you there? No. Rito Cheta.
Present, sir.
Shagnik is absent. Shrajal,
Present, sir.
Kirti,
Present, sir.
Shawl,
Present, sir.
Shantanu,
Yes, sir.
Satyam,
Present, sir.
Satyam present. Ilhan, Ilan Raza. No. Present. Okay. Pooja,
Present, sir.
Aman Gupta, Aman Gupta, absent. Pushpendra Bera,
Present, sir.
Rifa Akhtar, Malik, Rifa Akhtar Malik, absent. Farhan Ahmed,
Present, sir.
Soham Basu, Soham Basu.
Sir, Aman wrote in the chat box that his mic is not working.
Who is waiting? Aman.
Yes, sir.
This happens with Aman. Earlier also happened. ठीक है. Soham Basu, not responding. Soham Basu, absent. Abhijit,
Present, sir.
Anubhav, Anubhav Kumar. No. Aditya Ghosh,
Present, sir.
Anushrita,
Present, sir.
Kundan, Kundan Sharma. No. Sangeeta Jha.
Present, sir. Sir, present.
All right. Chandrani Das Sharma,
Present, sir.
Modi,
Present, sir.
Harsh Ranjan,
Yes, yes, sir. Present.
Harsh Ranjan, Somen,
Yes, sir.
Digar,
Present. Present, sir.
Tejas,
Present, sir.
Mrinal,
Present, sir.
Lisan, Lisan Ali. Absent. Shagnik Gosal. Shagnik Gosal. Not there. Farzina Khatun.
Present, sir.
Abdi.
Present, please, sir.
Shagnik Biswas. Shagnik Biswas. No. Ridhi Banerjee.
Present, sir.
Pratik Tiwari. Pratik Tiwari. Shubhojit Saw. Shubhojit Saw is also not there. Okay. Few more names.
Sir,
Hello?
sir, Abid has written in the chat box that his mic is not working.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Sir, serial number, sir.
Who's?
Hello, sir. I'm Abid. Am I
Sir,
audible?
serial.
Abhi, then why didn't you respond
Yes,
in
sir.
time?
At first, sir, I gave my attendance, but after some time, I found that there was no sound coming from my device. So, and
अच्छा,
my
ठीक.
mic was not working properly.
Okay.
I-
ठीक है.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Who else was talking? Serial number
Sir,
regarding?
we got our roll number, so
We will call from next week, maybe with roll numbers.
Yes, sir. I'm present. Serial number 11.
okay, sir.
Sir.
Serial number 11, Aditya Banerjee is already present. So,
Yes, sir.
why did you respond now? Wait, I have not finished my call. Zain Khan, Ahmad Zain.
Present, sir.
Okay. Arun Kumar,
Yes, sir.
Ohana. Ohana Sinha Roy. Not there. Apurvo Jha. Apurva Jha, present.
Yes, sir.
Ahona Sinara is absent. Arun Kumar, present. Zain Khan, you responded.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Acha, now you tell anybody left out? Is there anybody who's
Yes,
named?
sir. Kundan sir, roll number 51. He just now called me. He don't have electricity, sir, from past 2 days. So he was not able to join the class, sir.
Kundan. Has he
Yes, sir.
joined late?
No, means starting he joined, sir, but due to electricity is not there at his home, so he left in the middle.
What is his name? Kundan?
Kundan sir,
Don't know.
Kundan 51, sir, roll number 51.
Can you hear me? Can
Yes,
you
sir.
hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
sir.
said,
His name is Kundan Sarma, sir. Roll number 51.
all right. All he is known to you, Prince.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Chicken, you can go. I mean, I'm releasing the class. We'll be back at afternoon session. All right.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay,
We'll,
sir.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
we'll talk more about this carpentry and woodwork.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Leave the class.